Continuing our journey, my dear leaders, around the theme of accelerating performance through transformative learning, let's hear from the CHROs of leading private sector banks about building organizational capability with transformative competencies. The discussion is led by Bimal, and joining him are Raj Kamal, Head Human Resources, Axis Bank, TK Srirang, Group Chief Human Resources Officer, ICICI Bank, Vinay Rajdan, CHRO, HDFC Bank. Vimal, over to you.
Thanks, Raj and Vinay and I. Is Srirang on?
Yeah,
I
thank
don't
you.
see it.
Thank you, Bimal. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Vinay. Yes. Srirang, you're on mute.
Defining question.
No. Firstly, a big welcome. For the audience who has, and we have a lot of people in the audience from the BFSI industry, and I'm sure all of them will acknowledge that, as the quote says, that it doesn't get bigger than this, right? Having all three of you on one panel, I have spoken to all three of you on many occasions over last many years, but never together. I mean, never had the opportunity to speaking to all of you together. But for everyone, friends, the three people that I am privileged to have on the panel today, just from a data perspective, represent 55% of workforce of private banks in India, right? So, and that's and about 20% of the workforce in the banking sector in India. So, by any statistical standard, this is a very large representative set. So really honored to have all three of you, Srirang, Vinay, Raj, and thank you very much for joining us for this panel. Just from a context perspective, any transformation, is a complex problem, and it's obviously not a single layered solution. It's a multi-layered approach. It often starts from the top, right, and even more so when it comes to people transformation and workforce capabilities. It is, there are a lot of people and human elements involved. There are emotions, there are anxieties, there are insecurities, and again, it is not a problem which is limited to a function or to a role or to an experience profile. I mean, in the previous discussion with Mr. Nambiar, we were discussing how should people who started their career in 80s respond to this situation, how do people who started their careers in 90s, and obviously, there was a view there. Now, in addition to that, there was also this discussion on how, while work life is becoming longer, the shelf life of skills is becoming smaller and smaller, right? So which means you will work for 65 years, but each skill that you acquire will probably last, we don't even know for how many months these days, right? And then, consumer behavior is getting impacted. Now, when we come specifically to your industry, the banking and financial services industry, even without the pandemic, I think there was large-scale transformation which was happening in the industry. There was significant digital adoption. Banking and financial services always have been the top one or two vertical for most IT or digital companies. So from that perspective, there was significant adoption happening. And then in addition, there were regulatory and other concerns. Now, I'm sure, like most other industries, the pandemic would have only accelerated the digital transformation. The first thing that I would really want to hear from all three of you more in terms of broad-ranging comments is, with this context in the background, and if I can structure my question as a set of three questions. What are the top three competencies which you believe are becoming extremely critical for your organization, irrespective of the role, right? So these are like competencies that everyone in the organization must have or acquire. Second, a related question is, has pandemic changed this list? I mean, was this list different 10 months back to what this list is today? And then third, if in your initial comments, if you can talk about some of the initiatives that your respective bank and organization is taking to build these skills and competencies. And Srirang, if I can request you to go first.
Yeah. Suman, indeed, pleasure to be platform. Even bigger pleasure to share it with both Vinay and Raj, who are dear friends and also from the same industry. I think, well, I think your questions are, I think they capture, I guess, a lot of what I guess we're all doing as an organization. So to answer your first question, Bimal, if what are the three competencies, and I'll try and be specific, and I would love to also hear Vinay and Raj after I share what we're doing in the bank. I think certainly, this pandemic has, has in a way put a lot of the organizations to test, and it's a never seen before kind of event. And I keep saying this that we had so much of BCP planning that all corporations had done, where we had at all points of time looked at what we do if a particular geography or a particular city or a set of geographies go down, and we had a situation where all geographies, all cities, all businesses at the same time went down, including there was not a single geography that was not impacted. So in some sense, I think it kind of taught us that how sometimes all your planning can be brought to naught by the kind of situations that we probably seen before. So what I think one competency which often we've spoken about, but I think which kind of came as an important aspect for defining success of a corporation is how agile you are as an institution. I think agility is something which I guess was tested maximum face to face, and many of us used to talk about 3-year projections, 4-year projections. There was a time in we could not predict what would happen next month. So we're planning by the month. So how does a corporation really respond to a situation? How agile you are and how you were, I think, in some sense, defined how best corporations manage this kind of onslaught of the pandemic. And what it tells you is that possibly going forward, you could, as a corporate, as a nation, come across such situations which you may not have planned for. So the competency that possibly will see you through those situations. One is to predict, which I think is the best thing, but I'm afraid our predictions will have limitations, and some of us will miss out on some events like this. In which case, I think agility becomes the defining competency, and it could not have been more amplified than what it was in the last 8 to 10 months. The second aspect, and that's pretty cultural, the second thing is to unlearn. Now, again, this is a good English word that all of us have used it for many years, but I think we've never really been tested because we didn't have to unlearn as much because the world around was largely incrementally moving. Again, this pandemic has put to test because overnight, what was otherwise a very physical dependent world moved to digital. And this was not a transition which happened like normally what we would do in a corporate. We would migrate 15% every year or something like that. This happened overnight. So in that sense, I think ability to unlearn old methods of working and to embrace new methods of working, which again is a very important cultural aspect. I think agility and ability to unlearn is something that we can build in a corporation. I think these corporations would survive many ups and downs that I think we'll all go through in the many years to come. The last important competency is technical, right? Which is what I guess most of us are all talking about, which is in the area of technology, in the area of data, in the area of design, consumer behavior. Because I think a lot of us, have at least the banking sector, have not spent as much time understanding consumer behavior. We are largely focused on distribution rather than on consumer behavior because today the consumer indeed has a range of choices to make, and we'll have to ensure that we offer a customized solution for the customer. Relationship management is becoming a very important aspect because it's not about having a product available, because these products again today mostly are commoditized, but how we're able to build a relationship with the customer. So those aspects, softer aspects of how to really establish an equation with the customer, with the customer trust is something that the brand comes across as, I think, is going to be extremely important. So there are going to be technical aspects of it, which is this bucket I mentioned. There is this whole agility and unlearning bit, which is more cultural. To me, there are many more, but if you pick up three, I would pick up these three as key competencies. You want me to answer the rest too, or probably we'll hear Vinay? What's the format like, Bimal? I'll go by whatever.
If you can answer Shiran in continuity, and then probably we can hear from them.
Okay. And in some sense, has this pandemic changed? Is what your next question I remember is the list. I'm afraid not. The list is the same. I think the need to really have this change happen in the corporation, I think has been tested in some sense, because they were there, they were in the air for some time, right? I'm sure, Bimal, you and I and many of us have discussed this before. So, creating an organization to unlearn, adopt the new doing things, creating an agile structure. Because, see, please understand, even our organization structures are all reflections of the societal structures we are part of. It's very hierarchical in that sense, right? Those lines and boxes structure, which we've all been brought up in. Now, overnight, we're saying that you have to offer a 360-degree banking to the customer. Now, that is something which is always there at the back of the mind, but internally as a corporation, and I can talk for sure for ICICI, we have been organized around products and not around the customer. Now, it's so for me to now say that you have to change this overnight to organize yourself around the. Now, what does it? It brings into play the fact that today you're going to have loose network operation, where you'll be working with a set of people for various projects around what the customer wants, and not working with a department or a person or a boss. Now, this is a huge adaptable challenge when it comes to any corporation. So, the point I'm trying to say, all these things were there in some sense in the last 4 or 5 years. What I think has happened. So, in my answer to your question would be: has the list changed? I'm not sure the list has changed, but I certainly believe the need for that list to get executed and actually make it happen, I think, has been more amplified and has been more real in the last 1 year. So, in some sense, it has kind of pushed that absolutely ahead. And today, I think corporations have caught on to it because you really don't have a choice, right? And if you were to go back to really look at what have we done as a corporation, I think, as I mentioned, Bimal, amongst the cultural changes, which I think are in progress. One cannot say that we are there, but I think we have done a lot of changes internally as a corporation, including the way we look at our overall performance management system. We have kind of moved away from we have a one KPI system for the senior management, which is a set one can have. So getting people to really work together for the bank and not for their product P&Ls, I think has been a significant change that we have been really working on. We've also working with a whole lot of partners, and Bimal, you're aware, we're working with NIT University to really ensure that we are able to, and some of your online offerings that you have made available to us is something that we're leveraging on. So certainly the area of data in terms of design, in terms of ensuring that we are able to skill our employees, because the fact is that a large part of a banking sector is largely distribution led skills, and we have really not embedded technology data into the core of where we are. So the good part is we have a young population. So I think we have invested a lot. We have tied up the whole lot of, but these are very, very initial stages, Bimal, we must confess. But the journey has started in terms of really ensuring that all our employees, we have close to about 95,000 employees, are exposed to these technologies of design, data, and technology. And they could be at different levels depending on where you are. The second aspect that we're investing in is, again, we are working with you, Bimal, on this through NIT on the relationship management for the wealth management and the privileged bankers, where we believe that relationship very important aspect, how you can really differentiate yourself going forward, because technology will make a lot of our offerings commoditized, and relationship hopefully will be a differentiator for the brand. So these are some of the actions that we're taking. As I said, it's a journey. We're at the beginning phases of it, and hopefully we will keep deepening it as we go ahead.
No, thanks a lot, Srirang. And Raj, if I can request you to go next. You're on mute, Raj. Raj, you're on mute.
You hear me? I think I'm on mute.
Yes, now. Yes.
Let me just. Hi. When you're amongst friends, it doesn't only happen in organization that group thing happens. Similar to what Srirang is saying, and I hope it's a little different to what Vinay is saying. Frankly speaking, yes, pretty much all of us are grappling with the same challenges, and pretty much maybe the words that we may use may be different, but the choices that we made are broadly similar. And I think that's why we said the entire trick here is the execution capability and what we bring to life there. The first question that you asked was what really happened in pandemic and what are the competencies that you think are really critical in that back. I'll spend a bit of time on the technical competencies. If you look at, yes, the consumer behaviors change, and we've talked about the three capability buckets that we have chosen. One is looking at the entire ways to acquire and manage the relationship, especially with the one access or a one corporation or one bank view across the subsidiaries as well. That's an area that we kind of think is very, very critical, especially in the wake of how we are structured as an organization reaching out to the customer. And also, the second part is the aspirations of people. There is that aspect as well, where a whole host of them are underpickled, under-seasoned, and may not be interested in doing human or face-to-face relationship management. And that's a skill that I think is really critical for organizations. And as you move up the value chain, it becomes in across segments of businesses. It is the critical skill set, and something that all of us, at least in the bank, are reinforcing and expanding in a big way. The second skill capability bucket is obviously technology and the data-based, both processing and underwriting capability, if you will, and thinking technology and data first, or actually technology first to solve the problem. And the third area that we are actually also thinking about, which is a little different, is project management capabilities as we spearhead and transform the agenda, especially for leaders. The aspect of the software aspect is completely agree with Srirang. Resilience, actually, how leaders can manage this uncertain world, and people who are have the ability to experiment and change along the way. So frankly speaking, all of us and people in banking, given the fact that we are in a regulated industry, regulations drive change, customer behavior drives change, something happens with fintech, maybe that drives change. So the employees by and large are oriented towards change, perhaps on a reactive basis. But here is where the part needs to come through from leaders, and that's something that capability building that we are looking at doing is how can you be resilient as a collective of leaders across. The second part is, along with resilience, is also about bringing your human side to the conversations. And I think that fundamentally changed in the pandemic period as well, because this was the first time, yes, it was the biggest experiment of sorts, where all of us had to accelerate the move to becoming digital. And it was a busy. Fundamentally, I think this was the first time emotions came into the workplace, and leaders had a challenging task, and let's not forget that, of managing the task with their emotions being in control, managing the anxieties of people. And I think as much as we go digital and tech oriented, that humanness needs to be reinforced, be it in your conversations, be it in your processes, and kind of has to be emphasized and kind of put back into the fore. And maybe we've done, I'll talk about what we've done. But if I look at the hard and soft skills, they're no different from others. The only thing is the time frame of development has really changed. And I think that is the big shift I see, be it in terms of managing the uncertainty, reduce the checkpoints, and said on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, or what are the goals that we can pursue, so as to make it more palatable. The change that has happened in the pandemic, actually, in all of this is, I think, fundamentally for us, it's anchored around a big way in the learning and the cultural agenda that we are driving. And learning also, not just merely skilling. Obviously, all of us have various kinds of learning journeys, and we'll talk about, we've doubled the learning hours, etc., in a blended way. But I think more importantly, for me, the learning agenda is the one spearheading the change, but looking at changing, unleashing the power of the existing people, helping them to be able to retrain and reskill in future. So there is the part of changing the learner mindset towards learning and being driven. And a whole host of our employees are very young employees. Through the processes, I think the first step is to helping them learning how to learn. And the fact that it's critical in the organization, you can't really say that, I'm not used to certification or tests, etc., because ultimately you are managing public money and trust. So there is a certain expectation that you have of having the knowledge. So the certification across the learning journeys become critical. But fundamentally, all the learning journeys are geared to ensuring that the mindset and the culture of learning gets embedded. And then you'll come to, we were talking about, managing productivity or hyper personalization, etc., all trying to build this talent as the roles get reshaped. The second big thing shift that we see along with acceleration uh, is this entire project management part. I want to spend a bit of time. Pandemic hit us. We were doing some transformation agenda and projects. I think fundamentally as leaders and as people, we understand that we don't think tech first, or we don't think process first. We think the problem and we use our tried and tested methods of solving, maybe putting people to the problem, or you think about a process. But we, to break the silos, we've actually deployed many projects across the organization. One big learning has been creating that project ecosystem, and just learning how to manage projects has been a big task. And that's everyone went through, including the leadership team. And I mean, it sounds archaic, but yeah, that's something that we've done. And I think for us, it's been a critical aha thing, because what we realized is people spearhead agendas in their own verticals and areas, but mobilizing, galvanizing things beyond, and working with cross-functional teams and creating that internal ecosystem to spearhead change is absolutely critical. The third thing is, as timely as it gets, the entire relationship part, and looking at many partnerships to create our own supply chains has been accelerated. And I don't know whether it was designed by you, Bimal. We had launched the entire relationship management system, and that's, I think, for us has been a timely intervention. To look at many of these interventions across the value chain to see how we can create the supply pool at the bottom end. Fundamentally, if I answer the third question, have things changed? Uh, Pretty much not. I think what we recognize is our orientation to performance. Definitely will need a rethink. Businesses will also have to be alive to the fact that reshaping their own structures and being agile in terms of not bound by bureaucracy of the structure will be a big ask increasingly. Uh, and that's something that we are working towards. The third part is the software aspect of who we are, the humanness part. So we are actually looking at embedding values also, and having just conversations on values. And values is something which is core belief of the organization, especially in the context of what we put out as a brand. That if you are saying that we will be a bank with a heart, and they'll say open, how do we kind of embed that in the conversation in a virtual world? It was very critical, and we used a band of around 1,000 people to deliver that. But the idea really is to think about, and for businesses to think about, how in a commoditized business, in a ever evolving, uncertain, regulated businesses, how we can get that human aspect with our leaders, with our people, and keep on talking about it, along with policies and programs and processes that you may have.
Thanks a ton, Raj. Vinay, would love to hear from you from an HDFC Bank story perspective. How are you seeing this, and what is HDFC Bank doing about it? You're on mute, Vinay.
Because I'm on mute.
Yes, now you're audible. Now you're audible. Yeah.
Okay, I think you had muted me. I had not muted myself. So, Bimal, first of all, I must thank you for getting two BFSI veterans to speak before me, because as you know, 30 years I spent outside of BFSI sector. So who am I to sort of show light to the likes of Srirang and Raj here, and including you possibly, Bimal. So they have really covered 90% of whatever had to be said regarding the questions. So you may find me going a little out of syllabus, so you must allow me that latitude. I think, speaking for myself, whenever I hear the word transformation, I'm a little careful with usage of that word. I think it's used a little freely in corporate world. So I think when we are using the word transformation and we are linking the word competency to it, and I'll come to the competency bit later, I think the transformation bit is coming up because of what the world has undergone in the last 10 to 12 months. Okay, I think that's where the whole thing is stemming from. Not to mention the ever-changing role of HR, which I've been hearing for 30 years. So that's a separate discussion, and it's evolving and it's yet to evolve fully as we keep on hearing. But specific to this, I think even in World War II, you did not have the whole world affected at the same time as you had with the pandemic. So therefore, this is a disruption of a kind which perhaps has no parallel. Maybe the past 500, 800 years, maybe 2 or 3 other parallels could be drawn where similar pandemics had sort of spread. So therefore, there is what I would say is that there is an opportunity to transform. Okay? And as we know from our experience of working and living, the opportunities to innovate, opportunities to improve, and opportunities to transform are always there. But organizations are set in their habits, they are set in their ways of working, and whatever end broke, why fix it mentality, and whatever be the reason, an organization continue to chug along in a certain way. So my guess is this, that within BFSI, as in many other sectors, there will be all kinds of organization. There will be large organizations like ours, which is being represented in the panel. There will be mid-sized companies. There will be smaller companies. And once the normalcy is restored to the vaccination process and confidence of coming out openly and the train services and the services and everything comes back to normal, my guess is that many companies will go back to their ways of working, which they were familiar with earlier, because that is what got them the results. And many companies will look at this as a serious opportunity to transform. And then there will be a lot of, in the continuum, you have a lot of organization at different points in this continuum. So essentially, what has changed? If you really see, what has changed is that instead of a physical contact, the acceptability of digital contact has taken place. Essentially, that is what has changed. Whether it is in organizations in terms of how organizations are designed, and people need to be in a physical work location to deliver work, or customers need to be approached physically, and therefore everything was geared around that. So if you were to ask me to pinpoint the element which is very apparent and doesn't take a genius to figure out, it is the acceptability of a digital contact. Whether organization is allowing you to work from home now, and the fact that organizations didn't have a choice about it is also well known. And the customer also being wary of contacting a relationship manager who is perhaps visiting so many people. So therefore, acceptability of looking at advisory services or any other product evaluation or discussion of financial nature coming, the customers finding it acceptable. So I think that is what has changed. Now, what does it do to an organization? It may be nothing, or it may be drastic. It depends on how you intend to leverage the opportunity. So what it has fundamentally done is your organization design is up for a transformation if you choose to make it so. Okay, because the whole way the work is organized, the HR architecture is around a physical location and people present there, and that has shifted when you work from home and so on and so forth. And how much of that will happen? Every company worth its weight is making announcements on that X number of percentage of people will shift and all those things. And quite frankly, I think we must accept the fact that that trend is irreversible. I think that is quite certain and makes life better. Why spend hours on the road every day? And also, as many organizations will discover, whether they will remember it once the normalcy comes back, is something that we'll have to see, that there are talent pools available to you which you didn't have access to earlier, and whether you will be able to change your internal organization habits of leaders at different levels to accept that pool of talent and you can have people working half a day, and you can have a variety. Why should I have one standard contract of employment, and why not you have multiple kinds to facilitate different kind of talent coming on board, which normally 9 to 5 physical location is not allowing you to. So there's an opportunity, and again, opportunity up to leveraging of the same. The question when you link the word competency to this transformation is the thing which is going on in my mind, and I may not have answers, but I can certainly throw the problem in front of not only the seasoned panel but the audience also which is listening, is the way we have been trained to define and identify competencies is around behaviors, right? The contra behavior and the pro behavior and all that. Now, the problem is that there's a huge element of physicality about, seeing those behaviors, witnessing them, in physical settings. And that has gone out of the window. Okay, I had there's a very dated research I had read long back that only 12% of people in US were over 6 feet. Okay, although there's a general impression that everyone in America is tall and so on and so forth. And the fact that people who are were tall were actually found in the sample to be disproportionately big. So on a lighter note, only Srirang qualifies for that because he's over 6 feet here. But there's a certain, if I were to use a word which all of us will, connect with, the whole concept of executive presence, I mean, is gone out of the window. You look for leadership impact. You look for executive presence. Today, if you have a new leader taking over a team, he is just a 2 by 2 inch, picture in a screen along with 10, 12 other people, right? So in that context, how do leaders lead? How work gets executed? How team management gets done? My personal view is culture creation is going to be very difficult in a virtual setting. So people will take steps, they will learn from them. There will be hybrid models which will come into play in any case, because that's what most companies are gearing towards. They will be learning from organizations which they possibly will do something better than you. They have an opportunity to learn from that. So everything, how is leadership defined? How do you manage teams? How do you handle conflicts? How do you do ops review, for example, virtually? So like any other organizations, we are also trying to build modules around that and strengthen these elements in the organization, particularly in a solution where for the first time perhaps the health and safety of people became center stage for all organizations. So you had the first time that work was waiting to be done, but employees weren't there. In the past, you always had a reverse problem, that employees were there, their work was either global recession or some issue that you could not ever work. You had a reverse problem this time. People are wanting to come, but they cannot come. Work is suffering. So I think that element needs to be strengthened, certainly. I don't know whether you want to define digital as a competency, but I think all of us in the last 10 months, typically people like me who rely a lot on, assistance of people who help me run my office, to do all the work, to figure out everything myself has been a challenge, and it's not been easy. So I think all of us has got a crash course in those aspects of technology appreciation, even the one that you gave us and your colleague gave us on StreamYard, and this is available and that's not available. So many features which are coming. So the equilibrium level is going up in the basic level of knowledge which everyone has about a particular subject. It goes up because technology is just not something that you have a choice to learn or not to learn. I mean, if you don't handle it, then you can't do, for instance, this conference that we are doing. So that is the element on digital awareness and so on and so forth. What does it do to the front line? I think, and this is my favorite subject, if you allow me to indulge in it for a moment. I think that is in most organizations, I believe, this is my personal belief, the organization which is able to build a very strong and empathetic connect with its first line of organization, the rest of the layers are closer to you. The furthest layer is the first layer. And actually, if you see, the first layer is the one which carries the numbers. They deliver everything. Rest is all supervisory architecture, aggregation at various levels. And that's another disruption you will find, and that's an opportunity of disruption, the agile way of working and so on that we are talking about. But with physical element of leadership, getting affected the way it has, the digital actually can sort of give you an opportunity to compress your mid-management layers, where a lot of work is around coordination and aggregation of data. So these are opportunities. So coming to the front line, I think every organization is working on that. You heard my colleagues already say it, but I think equipping the person in the front who has to have the customer contact and therefore requires the customer information in a 360-degree manner. And that itself is a challenge, because in different parts of the organization, you have information about one customer which is scattered. So suddenly the words like data lake acquire new meaning now, because you realize that if you don't have it in one place, then you can't have one view of the customer available to multiple parts of your organization. So that becomes important, and I think that is a huge opportunity. The organizations which get it right faster, quicker, and in a much more accurate way, their ability to give delight to the customer will be higher. And I think with whatever the army of products that you already have, you can have better traction. So that was those are my few thoughts. I think there's a lot of opportunity for change, and this is because you have to understand that how work is organized is a fundamental question, and how work is organized has been completely affected by last 10-12 months, and that throws up actually in financial terms, you have a concept of zero-based budgeting, and not look at the last budget and put 8% and 2% more to counter inflation, and that's my new budget. But that's one way to bring down cost if you do zero-based budgeting. I think in organizations also, you have huge opportunities of doing a zero-based reset of everything, including processes, because in large organizations, don't forget, the process that you started with years back and the process that you have now have all undergone so many changes that sometimes no one has a view of the end-to-end process and what does it achieve. In large organizations, scale has a potential for you to fall into the trap. Whether you do or you do not is up to you as an organization and how smart you are about these things. But uh, yeah, Bibel, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Bibel, over to you. I'm done with my comments.
Yeah. No, thanks. Thanks, Vinay. I'm specifically on, I think, on your point on a lot of us had to learn a lot of things doing by ourselves. Yesterday we had Devdutt Patnaik, who was sharing learning principles from mythology. And he related this with Vanvas as mythology, and there is a lot of learning that happened in mythology during the Vanvas time, and that is what his linkage was. So and I clearly see many similarities and touch, and really that was my next question, and I see Sapnesh also has this question, is specifically from the frontline perspective, and given that
Bimal, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, same here.
am I audible now? Am I better now? Is this better now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. Okay. No, so my next question really was around the frontline folks, and that is what you touched upon. And I know we are really short on time, so specifically for frontline folks, I know a lot of training delivery moved to digital. I mean, given that there was no choice really. Very specifically, Shirang and Raj, and while we get Vinay back, how do you see learning delivery continuing post pandemic? I mean, as world opens, is there a view on how learning delivery will happen or continue post pandemic?
So, Bimal, two points I just want to make quick. One, I think both Vinay and Raj captured the spread very well. One additional aspect that I think we need to keep in mind is that as we get bigger, and especially this is true for large corporations, and I was just reading what Ruchir Sharma had put out last week or something on the top trends and top 10 trends, and he talked about how Microsoft is only probably organization which lasted over 20 years in the top 10 list, and the whole list has changed. So certainly, what organizations are in the top 10 may not necessarily be the same list in 2030. So why does it happen? I think it happens because I think sometimes scale and an inability to change, I think. So cultural aspect of a corporation and ability to learn, I think, is going to be a key differentiator. Having said it, I think for large corporations like ours, breaking it down to various micro markets and enabling the front line to really respond to those micro markets in the manner that is most appropriate, and rather than have a one size fit all sitting out of Bombay, I think is certainly something that is going to see a drastic change. And what does it mean? It means that we got to push more decision making to the front line. So that would mean that they need to be more equipped. So I think one big disruption that I see for sure is in the front line, because I think the acquisition model of the banking sector is going to see a massive disruption. The operations and the service aspect of it, as we all know, is pretty disrupted today with technology in place. Today, most of our ops are technology-led. Service today, as Vinay was alluding to, where you can sit on a phone at home and over a phone, maybe get some of your requests done. Unfortunately, or whichever way it is, the acquisition of new customers and new business in banking is still very physical. I do believe that that is an area where maximum workforce is deployed, and that's the area that's going to get disrupted possibly the most. So as and when we get more digital, and as and when the acquisition models change, I think the profile of the frontline employees will shift from just an acquisition machinery to a relationship machinery. And that, I think, is a skill that I think would need a significant investment from all of us to make sure that we're able to equip our frontline with relationship skills and data skills
Yeah,
for them to
Bimal, can
make
you hear me
decisions on the
now?
ground.
You
Right? So
can.
to me,
Okay.
yeah, we can hear you, Vinay. Yeah, we can. So to me, I think that would be a significant change. So if to summarize, I think the shift of the dependence on large numbers of frontline people for physical acquisition to data-based or even digital acquisition, and reprofiling, reskilling some of the frontline into relationship officers and not just acquisition machinery as they are today. I think the biggest transformation you would see in the next 24 months in the banking sector.
Sure. Vinay, Raj, last one minute to you, and Raj, we will give you really the last word here. But specifically on the virtual skills of relationship manager, how is the bank enabling those? You're on mute, Raj. You're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Bimal, I'm not able to hear.
I can hear you, Vinay.
Okay.
We
I
can
can
hear
hear
you, Vinay. We can hear you well. Yeah, Raj, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so quick one. I think fundamentally, pretty much one of the ways that I think frontline enablement will also happen to rethinking the job itself. virtual skills, skill per se, there are adjacencies here. You have phone banking officers who are trying to do the outbound calling and having the. So if you are looking at a physical format, but one big way, and I think that is the bet that we are placing, is internally. If you look at earlier, work either would go happen outside, and if you're working from home, there's still a bridge to connect your systems to that work, right? Like a VPN bridge or other such enablement. This decade is going to be about how your mobile, and I'm just talking about not having just apps, but getting the mobile, at least for the frontline managers, to be the workplace. What I mean is having the nudges and having the all the enablers, not only just the processing enablers which we may have in diverse apps, but getting it all together and ensuring the same cadences with the manager as well. What it does is the role of the manager then moves beyond hopefully just the reviewing, tasking, every day kitna number aaya and all of those things, to a whole lot more value added stuff. The second is, at least in a distributed and disaggregated setup, you could have large spans and look at definitely a more proficient and skilled workforce. But what it does is also changes the role of and the expectation from the frontline manager. The person has to be a problem solver and somebody who can coach you, not necessarily just review task and maybe work with the corporate office to figure out the file kahan hai kind of stuff, right? Those two shifts will be, I think, just to add to all the points, will be enabled by technology and working with technology to think how we can make the entire interaction between frontline and the frontline officer with the customer more empathetic and with less friction. Definitely, there is that opportunity.
Sure. No, thanks a lot. I mean, I can personally go on with the three of you through the
Well,
day.
I'm very sorry, but I'm not able to hear anyone.
Physical customer contact, especially in a regulated industry, the KYC is critical, but at least if the virtual setup is also KYE, will become even more critical.
No, thanks, Raj. Like I said, I mean, personally, I can go on with the three of you through the day, but we are on top of the hour, and we have another panel in waiting. So thanks a lot. Once again, pleasure speaking to all of you, and all the best. And we look forward to having you for all the other sessions, including Brett Lee's session today evening.
Thank you, Vimal. We'll see you there. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you, Vimal.
Perpetual, just tell this NIT fellow, I'm not able to hear anyone.
Thank you to all the speakers, and thank you, Vimal.